Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys enjoyed the video today. We're going to go through the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and what is going on in that club at the moment, being a massive topic in the NRL media right now, especially coming off the back of the NRL 360 interview with Buzz Rothfield and Jimmy Graham. How much you ever want to put to that sort of discussion there? Obviously, Buzz Rothfield does have a sort of agenda against Phil Gould. Obviously, you can hear that the way he speaks, the way he was coming across with like saying Andrew Davies is the victim. This is what's going on at a club. And I completely agree with Jimmy Graham with pretty much most of all of his takes in any sort of way there. But honestly, I want to do this video because I want to hear what you guys think about it, especially Doggies fans. Hopefully you have clicked on this video. I want to hear your thoughts overall because you're probably a lot deeper into the club compared to me. I do have a close mate of mine that is a Doggies fan, and I know he's been struggling with obviously watching and keeping up with the Doggies the last couple of years and just what's going on with the Dogs, because it just seems like a merry-go-round right now. And even then, it somewhat seems like it's going on a deeper slope. It's going to take a little while to turn around, even though, you know, you got signings like Stephen Crichton coming next year, but you also got signings to where I believe is very similar to the Doggies of the past, like 5 years at least. Of like a Blake Taaffe, in my opinion, could be a great signing for maybe a premiership favorite club, a club that could need a little bit of depth in the situation and that. But for a club that needs something a bit more special, something that's going to build and raise standard, that's that club. I don't know if Blake Taaffe does that, especially, you know, I don't see him that much of a difference player as a Jake Averillo or anything like that. But I do want to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. So make sure you hit the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this sort of video, do like and subscribe. But let's get into it. My thoughts on the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and the whole situation with the Bulldogs at the moment. And obviously this starts for me of, you know, for me, watching football since I was a young boy, obviously, and the early 2000s Doggies team is so synonymous with my obviously growing years through rugby league, and talking about, you know, Willie Mason, you know, Rennie Matua, you got Matt Utai, you got obviously Jonathan Thurston earlier in those club years, and Luke Patton, just Andrew Ryan, that whole club, Willie Mason, as I may have just said before, like that club was built on just success, hard work, determination, a whole lot of things that have gone to the wayside the last couple of years. And even when we look at Desi Hasler's situation, when Desi came into that club, he had success for a good period of time there, but then fell away towards the end of his period there and has been blamed for a lot of the actual situation that the Doggies are in right now. But it's been a long time since then, and there's been a couple of guys that are going in there trying to fix this problem, to unfortunately no avail. And it's really, really disappointing to see a team of this, like, the history at this club to be in this sort of position, especially getting dragged through the media at the moment. And another thought I want to give to you, Doggies fan, is what's your thoughts on having someone like Phil Gould at the club? And there's definitely a whole lot of positives to having someone like Phil Gould, obviously, at your club. He's the experience of success in some instances. He builds development systems. He's great for that sort of stuff for your club. But the one thing that goes against Phil Gould in many situations is he's such a big media figurehead. Obviously, with Channel 9, he gets in disputes with certain different people. When he comes out in the media, the spotlight doesn't go on just him, but it goes on the Bulldogs. And I've noticed that a lot more lately in the, you know, the last couple of years and that. But, you know, when you're listening to people like Buzz Rothfield come out there, they got agendas against the club. So obviously when you listen to NRL 360, you're going to see a lot more Doggies media, a lot more Doggies stuff going on at the club and little things that come out. And the most recent one that has been very, very disappointing to hear is obviously that player that has come out and said that he has mental health issues, you know, somewhat, you know, due to the club, but due to a situation that happened at the club, which, you know, is no laughing matter. I don't really want to go into the mental health sort of issues. I've dealt with that in my past overall. If you know me personally, I don't really want to go into any of that sort of stuff on my channel. Again, nothing to laugh at there. But the one thing that I took away from that whole news story, the whole thing, is how hard it is for these Doggies to lift their standards from a team that has these sort of situations at their club to where, you know, they need to be successful. I feel like every year when we go to a new year with the Bulldogs, we see players that they've signed. We see the potential in the players that they sign. We've seen this in the past when they've signed Napa, they've signed Kotrick, they've signed players of this ilk where you just go, if they can get all these guys on the same page and just, you know, play amazing football, they're a top 8 side. And I'm bad for it as well. We're all hypocrites. As humans, we are born, we're hypocritical. That's what we are. Sometimes we flip-flop on certain situations. No matter how hard you think you aren't, you are. Everyone is in any sort of way. I thought the Doggies this year, when I saw the signings of Matty Burton, obviously in years past, but then you got Viliami Kikau, you got Reid Marnie that comes to the club. They've tasted success at multiple, at the obviously Parramatta Eels and the Penrith Panthers. These guys that come to the club, not only could they lift standards, but also give them a taste of that experience that they've had at the top grade, but obviously not enough. I think all year, obviously, a player of Reid Marnie has done amazing to where the effort, you do see it on a football field. You see what he's trying to do for this club, but it just seems like he's one of the only. And, you know, you got other players at that club where you just, you know, Viliami Kikau went to that club, and I know he's been injured, but you could, like, far from his best year, even though when he's come back off injury, it's been, honestly, I haven't seen Viliami do, like, he's had a couple of big hits, he's a couple of big moments. Matty Burton's another one where he come to the Bulldogs, and I feel like Matty Burton does escape a whole lot of criticism to the way he plays football, you know, comparatively to, like, you know, the one I always bring up with, and, you know, Josh Schuster is a player that comes through a whole lot of criticism throughout his whole career, and a player that actually is dealing with mental health conditions as well with his situation, what's going on with losing a best friend and things are going on in his life. But a player that gets criticized all the time. But I see very similar things out of Matty Burton. The only thing with Matty Burton, usually, you know, you can always say is when Matty Burton touches State of Origin, he hits a whole new level. But when he goes back to the Doggies, the best thing about Matty Burton is his kicking game. And even then, it's not even his kicking game. It's the big bomb that he has. But his kicking game seems to rely on that big bomb. When he does run the ball at moments, he looks absolutely amazing, but just doesn't do it enough. And no matter what half you seem to be putting in there, even though they seem to be not the best halves, and it's really hard to buy amazing halves. And I think that's the big key to the Doggies and turning them around, is trying to build an experienced club, but also, you know, not buy players that sort of have that whole thing of like untapped talent that they could turn around. They need to buy players that have the experience, that showed their talent throughout their career. Mitchell Pearce could be a player to look at, but I feel like maybe he's more so to his end of his career. You got Toby Sexton now. You signed him. Amazing. Good stuff. But I just see him being another scapegoat, as of a Carl Oluwapu who had a taste there and gone. Cole Flanagan, who has a taste there and gone. And it just seems to be a rotisserie door at that club. And that's the one thing I can agree with Phil Rothfield, and I wish I didn't. And I honestly don't, because of the way he speaks, the way he does things with an agenda. But the one thing I do agree is their signings at times just don't fit the bill for a club that needs to be rebuilding. But then again, you couldn't ask me how to rebuild this club, because by the looks of it, of players that I've seen, as I say, every start to every year, I look at this club and go, they're top 8 contenders, maybe. Like, if they put it all together, they're top 8 contenders. But then they come to the end of this year, when we look back at it, it's kind of like, you know, Monday quarterbacking, or what do you call it, Monday jockeying, where you just go back and go, well, of course they're shit. Like, they're not going to the positions where they need to be because of this player, this player, this player. But at the start of the year, you're like, those are the players that will turn it around. So it's a really hard situation. But the reason why I do completely agree with James Graham, and I completely agree with him in every sense, and I love watching his podcast, listening to his podcast, love listening to him speak when he's through the media, because he's such a good talker, a very smart mind, but someone that's been there and walking the shoes. Another player to listen to, obviously, Willie Mason at the Levels podcast is amazing to listen to, because they all say the same things. They're trying to drive standards at a club. Willie Mason working at the Bulldogs, and when you listen to him Levels podcast, he speaks so positively at the club because he wants to build their confidence, but he's also, within everything he does say, he also says the coaches are building standards. They need to build standards. That's what's going to change us into a team that's not going to be good for 1 year, but multiple years in the future. It's going to take time, but you also got to sign the right players as well. And that's a tough predicament that I do see the Doggies in, and it's really, really tough. But again, what I agree with James Graham is when you bring up stories like Andrew Davey coming out and against the club after all the media around him, because Phil Rothfield has an agenda against Phil Gill, and he wants to really drive home that Phil Gill's not doing a great job. And at some instances, you do got to agree, but you just know that there is agendas against certain clubs and what's going on. So it makes it so tough. But when you got Andrew Davey coming out and say he doesn't agree with the coaching and that, and Jimmy Graham basically comes back out and says, well, there's a reason why you're not at that club. And the reason was you were the other players that did not hold standards. You were a player that thought you'd just come into this club, play that second row position, get your money, get where you need to be. You didn't prove yourself in preseason. You didn't prove yourself. There was a young Jacob Preston that we all agree is possibly in the running for Rookie of the Year this year. He was absolutely amazing, and we need more players like him. He was driving standards at the club. Andrew Davey wasn't. Now he's back at he's at the Parramatta Eels, where if the Parramatta Eels were full strength, I don't think Andrew Davey makes that starting lineup. So he's in the same predicament anyway. So is he going to come out against the Parramatta Eels and say, well, where's my starting position? I don't like the coaching of that club. I don't like this and that. You know, that's the one thing I do have against this whole argument with the, you know, the NRL 360 sort of stuff is the club is in such a hard place where I feel like they are trying to turn things around, but there is things that they are doing completely wrong, and I do agree with that. But for people, listen to people like Buzz Ruffield to come out there, it doesn't really help anything with the doggies. It never does. It's just building more negative spin. It's the reason why the Tigers are currently always sitting at the bottom of the ladder. They're always struggling to get any sort of form, is because whenever they start to find something or something sort of happens, they all fall apart because some stuff leaks out in the media, and sometimes the media just does this to teams. So where do doggies go from here? I honestly have no clue. I honestly think they need a good experienced half, someone they could buy on the market, but they've tried that before. You know, we do remember Kieran Foran coming over from the Warriors, but he was injured all the time. Then he had to go to Manly Seagulls, and then when he went to Manly, he was playing football and he was playing amazing. He's gone to the Gold Coast, and even though been injury riddled in some moments of his career, he's been amazing there. He had players, obviously, you know, Dallin Martinez-Lesniak, Montoya, they had previously been at the Doggies and didn't perform, but go to a different club and perform. So obviously there's something there. There's a standards that is not being met. But to change that, it's someone like me, I could never even think of how to, because I'm just a guy on YouTube talking about what's going on at the Doggies. So hope you guys enjoy. Please make sure you comment down below your thoughts overall on the Doggies this year. What's going on? What's your honest view on the Dogs, and how do they fix their problems? There's so many different things you can talk about, but honestly, I don't think there's one thing you can nail it down to, but they just need time. And I think that's the hardest thing as a Doggies fan, because I feel like they've been given a massive amount of time, and they've been ruining that for the last how many years, since about 2017, 2016, 2017. They've been ruining that. So it's going to be a really tough ride, but hopefully Stephen Crichton comes to your club, brings another bit of that winning culture, another puzzle piece to add to the puzzle. You know, build that little bit of culture. Blake Taft comes to the club. Yeah, I really don't know. I don't know what the Doggies. Hopefully you guys do. Comment down below your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate your support on the channel lately. The team lists have dropped down, so I'll probably do a video on the Warriors and how we look against the Panthers probably a little bit later on this week. So do keep an eye out for that. And also go check out Waz Up on Instagram. Follow him. I'm pretty sure I put it up on my community page. Go check him out. We did a massive live stream. It was amazing. So go check that out. Thank you so much, guys. Peace out.